The alien's plight. The twin suns of Kepler 186 cast long shadows across the barren landscape as Zaxlorth, the last of the Void Stalkers, dragged his massive form across the rocky terrain. Once a feared predator capable of taking down creatures twice his size, Zaxlorth now moved with agonizing slowness, each step a monumental effort that sent waves of pain through his battered body. A jagged shard of crystalline metal, a remnant of the ship that had brought him to this desolate world, protruded from his side. The wound, while not immediately life-threatening to his species, had become infected. The strong electromagnetic fields of Kepler 186f interfered with his natural healing abilities, leaving him vulnerable in a way he had never experienced before. Zaxlorth's 4 eyes, usually sharp and alert, were now clouded with pain and fatigue. His iridescent scales, once a source of pride and camouflage, hung limply from his frame. He let out a low, mournful sound that echoed across the empty plains, a cry for help that would go unanswered on this uninhabited world. As night fell and the temperature plummeted, Zaxlorth found shelter in a shallow cave. He curled his 12-foot frame into a tight ball, conserving what little warmth he could. In the darkness, his mind wandered to his home world, light years away. Would he ever see it again? Would his species even survive without him, their last warrior and protector? Millions of miles away, on a small research outpost orbiting Kepler 186f, Mira Chen stared out the viewport at the rust-colored planet below. At 28, she was the youngest xenobiologist on the mission, a fact that both thrilled and terrified her. Her small quarters were cluttered with holographic displays, each showing different aspects of the planet's ecosystem. "Anything interesting today, Mira?" The voice of Dr. Elias Reeves, the mission commander, crackled through the intercom. Mira sighed, running a hand through her short, dark hair. "Nothing new, Commander. The drone surveys are still showing no signs of complex life, just the usual microbial colonies near the thermal vents." "Keep at it," Reeves encouraged. "We've only been here 3 months. Who knows what secrets this planet is hiding?" As Reeves signed off, Mira turned back to her displays. She had dreamed of moments like this since she was a child, staring up at the stars from her family's apartment in New Beijing. The opportunity to study alien life, to be the first human to make contact with a truly alien intelligence, it was why she had worked so hard, pushed herself to the limits of her abilities. But so far, Kepler 186f had been frustratingly silent. Mira was about to call it a night when a soft beep from one of her monitors caught her attention. She frowned, leaning in closer. The long-range sensors were picking up an unusual energy signature from the planet's surface. It was faint, barely above the threshold of detection, but it was there. And it was moving. Heart racing, Mira began to refine the scan, filtering out background radiation and geological interference. Slowly, a clearer picture emerged. Whatever was generating the signal was large, much larger than any life form they had theorized could exist on Kepler 186. "This can't be right," Mira muttered to herself, double and triple checking her readings. But the data remained consistent. There was something down there, something alive and in distress. Her first instinct was to alert Commander Reeves, but she hesitated. The mission protocols were clear: no direct interference with the planet's ecosystem without months of careful study and preparation. If she reported this, it would mean endless meetings, debates, and likely no action at all. And all the while, whatever was down there would continue to suffer. Mira's fingers hovered over the comm panel. She thought of all the years of training, the oaths she had taken as a scientist to observe and record, never to interfere. But she also thought of why she had come out here, to the very edge of human exploration. It wasn't just to watch and take notes. It was to make a difference, to expand the boundaries of human knowledge and understanding. With a deep breath, Mira made her decision. She began to gather supplies: medical kits, emergency rations, and a portable atmospheric converter. She knew the risks. The planet's surface was hostile, with toxic pockets of gas and unpredictable weather patterns. The creature she had detected might be dangerous, even deadly. But as she prepared for her unauthorized expedition, Mira felt a surge of excitement and purpose that had been missing since they arrived at Kepler 186f. This was why she had come all this way. This was her chance to make first contact, to help a being in need, and perhaps change the course of human history. As she slipped out of her quarters and made her way to the shuttle bay, Mira couldn't help but smile. Whatever awaited her on the surface, she was ready to face it. For science, for discovery, and for the chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength was not its technology or its weapons, but its compassion and curiosity. Little did Mira know that her actions were about to set in motion a chain of events that would not only change her life, but redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. As the shuttle's engines hummed to life, carrying her towards the unknown, the fate of two very different species hung in the balance. The journey to the planet's surface was a blur of alarms and warning lights as Mira's small craft bucked and shuddered through the turbulent atmosphere. She gritted her teeth, hands tight on the controls, using every bit of her minimal pilot training to keep the shuttle from breaking apart. As the craft finally broke through the cloud cover, Mira got her first real look at the surface of Kepler 186. Jagged mountains rose in the distance, their peaks shrouded in swirling, toxic mists. The ground below was a patchwork of rust-red plains and deep crevasses, with occasional bursts of steam erupting from hidden geothermal vents. Mira's sensors guided her towards the source of the mysterious energy signature. As she drew closer, she could make out a dark shape moving slowly across the landscape. Her heart raced. This was it, proof of complex alien life, something no human had ever encountered before. With a jarring thud, the shuttle touched down on a relatively flat expanse of rock. Mira quickly donned her exosuit, a sleek combination of protective armor and scientific instruments. As the airlock hissed open, she took her first step onto an alien world. The gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's, making each step an effort. The air, even filtered through her suit, carried a metallic tang that set her teeth on edge. But Mira pushed forward, her eyes fixed on the distant shape that was now clearly visible against the horizon. As she drew closer, the true scale of the creature became apparent. It was massive, easily 4 times her size, with a body that seemed to shimmer and shift in the alien light. Mira's scientific mind raced, cataloging details: multiple limbs, an exoskeleton-like covering, and what appeared to be sensory organs unlike anything in Earth's biological record. But what struck her most was the creature's obvious distress. It moved with painful slowness, and as Mira circled to its side, she saw the cause: a jagged piece of metal protruding from its flank, surrounded by a discoloration that she assumed was a sign of infection. For a moment, Mira froze. All her training, all her preparation, seemed inadequate in the face of this alien reality. But then the creature turned its head, or what she assumed was its head, towards her. Multiple eyes focused on her, and Mira saw something she recognized instantly: pain, fear, and a silent plea for help. In that moment, the gap between their species seemed to vanish. This was a living being in need, and Mira was possibly its only hope for survival. With newfound determination, she approached slowly, her hands raised in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "It's okay," she said softly, knowing the creature couldn't understand her words, but hoping her tone would convey her intentions. "I'm here to help. Let me help you." As she drew closer, the creature made a low, rumbling sound. Mira tensed, ready to retreat, but the alien remained still, watching her with what seemed like cautious curiosity. Slowly, carefully, Mira reached out towards the wounded area. The creature flinched slightly but didn't pull away. Taking this as a good sign, Mira began to examine the injury more closely. The metal shard was deeply embedded, and the surrounding tissue looked inflamed and discolored. Mira's mind raced through her xenobiology training. The creature's biology was completely alien to her, but the basics of trauma care should still apply. She needed to remove the foreign object, clean the wound, and find a way to promote healing. With gentle movements, she began to work, using her suit's medical tools to carefully extract the metal shard. The creature remained remarkably still, only occasionally making low, pained noises that made Mira's heart ache with sympathy. As she worked, Mira found herself talking to the creature, explaining each step of the process. "This might hurt a bit, but it'll feel better soon. You're doing great, just a little more." Finally, after what seemed like hours, the metal shard came free. The creature let out a sound that Mira could only interpret as relief. She quickly applied a regenerative foam to the wound, hoping that it would be compatible with the alien's biology. As she finished her work, Mira stepped back, watching the creature anxiously. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the alien began to move. Its movements were cautious at first, then became stronger and more fluid. Mira held her breath as the creature turned to face her fully. She was acutely aware of how vulnerable she was, how easily this massive being could crush her if it chose to. But instead, the alien lowered its head until it was at eye level with Mira. Its multiple eyes blinked in a complex pattern, and it made a series of clicks and whistles that Mira desperately wished she could understand. Then, to her amazement, the creature extended one of its limbs towards her. The gesture was unmistakable, a reaching out, an acknowledgement, perhaps even a thank you. With trembling hands, Mira reached out and gently touched the offered limb. The alien's skin was cool and smooth, unlike anything she had ever felt before. In that moment of contact, Mira felt a profound sense of connection, of shared experience that transcended the vast differences between their species. As the twin suns of Kepler 186f began to set, casting long shadows across the alien landscape, Mira knew that everything had changed. She had come to this planet seeking discovery, but she had found something far more profound, a connection that bridged the gulf between worlds. The journey back to her shuttle was a blur, her mind reeling from the encounter. As she prepared for takeoff, Mira glanced back at the alien creature, now moving with greater ease across the rocky terrain. She knew that her actions today had violated countless protocols and would likely end her career. But as her shuttle rose into the alien sky, Mira felt no regret. She had followed her conscience, had reached out across the stars to help a being in need. And in doing so, she had taken the first step towards a new understanding between species. As the shuttle broke through the atmosphere, heading back to the research station, where she would face the consequences of her actions, Mira smiled. Whatever came next, she knew that today, on this distant world, humanity had proven itself worthy of the stars. The daring rescue. Alarms blared throughout the research station as Mira's shuttle docked. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation to come. As the airlock cycled open, she was met by the stern face of Commander Reeves, flanked by two security officers. "Dr. Chen," Reeves said, his voice tight with barely contained anger, "you have some explaining to do." The next few hours were a whirlwind of debriefings, medical checks, and increasingly heated arguments. Mira stood her ground, passionately defending her actions while the station's senior staff debated the implications of her discovery. "Do you understand what you've done?" Dr. Yara Amir, the mission's lead exobiologist, asked, her voice a mix of awe and frustration. "You've made first contact with an alien species, without preparation, without protocols, without permission," Reeves interjected grimly. Mira nodded, her exhaustion giving way to a renewed sense of purpose. "I understand the risks I took, the rules I broke, but I also understand what I saw down there. A sentient being, in pain, reaching out for help. If we're not out here to offer that help, then what are we doing here at all?" A tense silence fell over the room. It was broken by Dr. Kiyoshi Tanaka, the mission's ethicist, who had been quietly observing the proceedings. "Perhaps," he said softly, We should consider this not as a breach of protocol, but as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to redefine our understanding of our place in the universe. Reeves frowned, but Mira could see the conflict in his eyes. Finally, he sighed. Dr. Chen, while I cannot condone your actions, I cannot deny the importance of your discovery. For now, you're confined to the station. We need time to process this information and decide on our next steps. As the meeting adjourned, Mira felt a mix of relief and frustration. She had avoided immediate dismissal, but the thought of being stuck on the station while the alien she had helped was still out there, possibly in danger, was unbearable. That night, unable to sleep, Mira found herself drawn to the observation deck. As she stared down at the swirling storms of Kepler 186f, her mind raced with questions. What was the alien doing now? Had it found others of its kind? Was it still in pain? Couldn't sleep either, huh? Mira turned to see Dr. Amir approaching, 2 steaming mugs in her hands. She offered one to Mira, who accepted it gratefully. I keep thinking about it, Mira admitted. About him, or her, or whatever pronoun might be appropriate for a 12-foot alien with iridescent scales. Dr. Amir chuckled softly. You know, when I was your age, I dreamed of moments like this, of being the first to make contact, to bridge the gap between species. But now that it's happened, she trailed off, shaking her head. Now what? Mira asked. Now we have to face the reality of it, the complexities, the risks, the sheer weight of the responsibility we bear. Dr. Amir turned to Mira, her expression serious. What you did was reckless, Mira, but it was also brave and kind. In all our preparations, in all our protocols, sometimes I think we forget that last part. Mira nodded, feeling a lump form in her throat. So what happens now? Dr. Amir sighed. Now we wait. We analyze your data. We debate. We plan. And eventually, we'll make a decision about how to proceed. But as the days stretched into weeks, Mira grew increasingly restless. The station buzzed with activity as teams analyzed every scrap of data from her encounter, but no concrete plans for further contact emerged. Meanwhile, her thoughts constantly returned to the alien she had helped, wondering about its fate. It was during one of her now frequent late-night visits to the observation deck that Mira made her decision. She couldn't wait any longer. She had to go back. With the skills of someone who had spent far too much time studying the station's systems, Mira began to plan. She carefully stockpiled supplies, studied the planet's weather patterns, and memorized the security rotations. And when the moment was right, she made her move. The shuttle bay was quiet as Mira slipped inside, her heart pounding. She had disabled the internal sensors, but she knew it was only a matter of time before someone noticed. As she prepared the shuttle for launch, she sent a brief message to Dr. Amir. I'm sorry. I have to know. Tell my family I love them. As alarms began to sound throughout the station, Mira's shuttle shot out into space. She pushed the engines to their limits, racing towards the planet's surface, even as she picked up transmissions from the station demanding she return immediately. The descent was even rougher this time, the planet's atmosphere seeming to resist her intrusion. Mira gritted her teeth, fighting to keep control as the shuttle bucked and shuddered. When she finally broke through the cloud cover, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Using the coordinates from her previous landing, Mira guided the shuttle to a spot near where she had first encountered the alien. As the craft settled onto the rocky ground, she quickly donned her exosuit, her movements filled with a nervous energy. The landscape was much as she remembered it, stark, alien, beautiful in its desolation. But now, knowing what she did about the life that called this place home, Mira saw it with new eyes. Every shadow might hide a new discovery, every rock formation a potential sign of alien intelligence. For hours, Mira searched, her suit's sensors straining to pick up any trace of the energy signature she had detected before. But the planet remained stubbornly silent, offering no clues to the whereabouts of her alien friend. As Kepler 186f's twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the rusted landscape, Mira felt despair creeping in. Had she risked everything, her career, her future, potentially even her life, for nothing? It was then that she saw it, a flicker of movement on the horizon. Mira's heart leaped as she recognized the shimmering, iridescent form of the alien creature. But her joy quickly turned to concern as she realized the alien wasn't alone. 3 other creatures, similar in form, but larger and more aggressive in their movements, were circling the alien she had helped. Their intentions were clear even to Mira's human eyes. This was a hunt, and her friend was the prey. Without hesitation, Mira began to run towards the group, her mind racing to come up with a plan. She was outnumbered and outmatched in terms of size and strength. But she had something these predators didn't: technology and the element of surprise. As she drew closer, Mira activated her suit's external speakers, cranking the volume to its highest setting. The sudden blast of sound, a mix of alarm klaxons and high-frequency tones, startled the attacking aliens. They reared back, their hunt forgotten as they tried to locate the source of the unfamiliar noise. Seizing the moment of confusion, Mira's alien friend, she had begun to think of it as Shimmer in her mind, broke free from the circle of attackers. It moved with surprising speed for its size, heading straight for Mira. For a heart-stopping moment, Mira feared she had made a terrible mistake. What if Shimmer saw her as just another threat? What if their previous encounter had been a fluke? A moment of desperation that didn't translate to true understanding. But as Shimmer drew near, it slowed, lowering its head in what Mira now recognized as a gesture of non-aggression. Relief flooded through her, quickly replaced by a new worry as she saw the other aliens regrouping, their attention now firmly fixed on both Shimmer and herself. "Okay, big guy," Mira muttered, reaching out to touch Shimmer's cool, smooth skin. "I hope you're ready to trust me again, because we need to move. Now." As if understanding her words, or perhaps simply responding to the urgency in her tone, Shimmer lowered its body. Mira's eyes widened as she realized what it was offering. With a deep breath, she climbed onto the alien's back, gripping tightly to the ridges of its exoskeleton. The moment she was secure, Shimmer took off, its powerful limbs eating up the distance across the rocky terrain. Mira clung on, her heart racing with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Behind them, she could hear the angry cries of the pursuing aliens, but Shimmer's speed and agility kept them just out of reach. As they raced across the alien landscape, Mira's mind whirled with the implications of what was happening. This wasn't just first contact anymore. This was cooperation, trust, maybe even the beginnings of a true interspecies bond. The chase seemed to go on for hours, Shimmer navigating treacherous canyons and scaling steep cliffs with a grace that belied its massive size. Gradually, the sounds of pursuit faded, until finally, in a secluded valley nestled between towering rock formations, Shimmer came to a stop. As Mira slid off its back, legs shaky from the wild ride, she found herself face to face with the alien. Its multiple eyes blinked at her in that complex pattern she had seen before, and it made a series of soft clicks and whistles. "Yeah," Mira said, reaching out to pat Shimmer's side. "We make a pretty good team, don't we?" As the adrenaline of their escape faded, Mira began to take stock of their situation. They were far from her shuttle, in a part of the planet she hadn't explored before. Her suit's power was running low, and she had limited supplies. And somewhere out there, both the hostile aliens and likely a very angry research team were looking for them. But as she looked at Shimmer, saw the intelligence and what she could only describe as gratitude in its eyes, Mira knew she had made the right choice. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As night fell on Kepler 186f, casting the alien world in shades of deep purple and blue, Mira and Shimmer huddled together in the shelter of a rocky overhang. The human and the alien, two beings from worlds unimaginably distant, united by circumstance, and something that, against all odds, felt very much like friendship. Mira knew that the journey ahead would be difficult. She had no idea how to communicate complex ideas to Shimmer, how to explain the concept of the research station, or the importance of establishing formal first contact protocols. But as she drifted off to sleep, lulled by the strange, rhythmic sounds of Shimmer's breathing, she felt a sense of peace. In risking everything to save this alien life, Mira had stumbled upon something profound. A connection that transcended the barriers of biology, language, and the vast emptiness of space. It was a small step, perhaps, but one that held the promise of a future where humanity's compassion and curiosity might truly bridge the gap between worlds. As the alien moons rose over the horizon, casting their pale light over the sleeping forms of the human and her alien companion, the true adventure was only beginning. Unlikely alliance. The harsh light of Kepler 186f's twin suns roused Mira from her uneasy slumber. For a moment, disoriented by the alien landscape, she panicked. Then she felt the reassuring presence of Shimmer beside her, and the events of the previous day came rushing back. As Mira checked her suit's systems, her heart sank. The power was dangerously low, and her oxygen reserves were depleting faster than she'd anticipated. The planet's atmosphere, while not immediately lethal, was far from breathable for humans. She had maybe 48 hours before things got critical. Shimmer seemed to sense her distress. The alien moved closer, its iridescent scales shimmering in the morning light. It made a series of soft clicks and whistles, a sound Mira was beginning to associate with concern or questioning. "We need to find a way to communicate," Mira muttered, more to herself than to Shimmer. She looked around, searching for inspiration. Her eyes fell on a patch of loose soil near their shelter. An idea struck her. Mira knelt down and began to draw in the dirt. First, a simple circle. She pointed to it, then to one of Kepler 186f's suns. Shimmer watched intently, its multiple eyes blinking in that complex pattern she found so fascinating. Encouraged, Mira drew another circle, smaller this time, with a crude stick figure on it. She pointed to the figure, then to herself. Shimmer's head tilted, a gesture that seemed almost comically human. Then, to Mira's amazement, Shimmer extended one of its limbs. With surprising dexterity, it began to draw in the soil. The shapes were alien, abstract, but clearly intentional. Mira's heart raced. This wasn't just mimicry. Shimmer was trying to communicate back. For the next few hours, human and alien engaged in an impromptu art class, drawing increasingly complex diagrams in the dirt. Mira sketched out basic mathematical concepts, simple machines, and representations of Earth's solar system. Shimmer responded with intricate patterns that Mira suspected represented aspects of its own world and culture. As they talked, Mira began to form a theory. Shimmer's species seemed to communicate primarily through a combination of bioluminescent patterns and complex pheromones, neither of which Mira could perceive or replicate. But they clearly had a concept of symbolic representation. It wasn't language as humans understood it, but it was a start. Their artistic exchange was interrupted by a distant, ominous sound. Shimmer tensed, its scales rippling with what Mira now recognized as agitation. The hostile aliens from yesterday were still out there, still hunting. Mira knew they couldn't stay put. Her supplies were limited, and Shimmer was still recovering from its earlier injury. They needed to find a more secure location, preferably one with access to water and whatever passed for edible vegetation on this world. Using their newfound method of communication, Mira tried to convey the concept of exploration, of finding a new home. Shimmer seemed to understand, or at least to trust Mira enough to follow her lead. They set out across the alien terrain, Mira's steps careful and measured to conserve her suit's energy, Shimmer moving with a fluid grace that belied its massive size. As they traveled, Mira found herself constantly amazed by her alien companion's abilities. Shimmer could sense electromagnetic fields, allowing it to navigate with uncanny precision. It could also detect subtle changes in air pressure and composition, warning Mira of toxic gas pockets or unstable ground before her suit's sensors could pick them up. In return, Mira's technology and scientific knowledge proved invaluable. Her suit's advanced filtration system allowed her to identify safe water sources, and her understanding of geology helped them find shelter in stable cave systems. As the days passed, their teamwork grew more seamless. They developed a rudimentary sign language, supplementing their dirt drawings with gestures and vocalizations. Mira found herself picking up on Shimmer's subtle mood changes, reading meaning in the patterns of its bioluminescent displays. One evening, as they rested in the shelter of a crystalline rock formation, Mira felt a shift in their relationship. Shimmer, usually alert and watchful, relaxed completely in her presence. It extended a limb, gently touching the faceplate of Mira's helmet in what she could only interpret as a gesture of affection. Mira's throat tightened with emotion. "I wish I could take this off," she said softly, tapping her helmet. "I wish you could see my real face, hear my real voice." As if understanding her words, Shimmer made a low, melodious sound. Then, to Mira's astonishment, its scales began to shift and change color. Slowly, painstakingly, they rearranged themselves into a pattern that looked remarkably like a human face. Her face. Mira gasped. "You've been studying me," she realized. "All this time, you've been learning about me just as much as I've been learning about you." The moment was broken by a sudden tremor that shook the ground beneath them. Mira's suit sensors blared warnings as the air filled with a noxious gas. An earthquake, she realized, or whatever the Kepler 186 equivalent was. "We need to move," Mira shouted, grabbing her pack. But as they emerged from their shelter, they found their path blocked by a river of molten rock, bubbling up from a newly formed fissure. Shimmer let out a distressed cry, its scales flashing in patterns Mira hadn't seen before. She didn't need their rudimentary language to understand. They were trapped. As toxic gases swirled around them and the ground continued to shake, Mira's mind raced. Her suit could protect her from the worst of it, but for how long? And what about Shimmer? The alien's biology was still largely a mystery to her. How much of this could it withstand? Then Mira had an idea. A crazy, potentially suicidal idea, but possibly their only chance. "Shimmer," she said urgently, using both words and gestures, "I need you to trust me. Completely." The alien's eyes focused on her, blinking in that complex pattern she had come to associate with understanding. Mira took a deep breath, then began the process of unsealing her helmet. Shimmer reacted immediately, its limbs moving to stop her. But Mira held up a hand, pleading with her eyes and gestures for the alien to wait. As the helmet came off, Mira felt the burn of Kepler 186's atmosphere in her lungs. She had seconds, maybe a minute at most. Fighting against the pain, she locked eyes with Shimmer. "Your bioluminescence," she gasped out. "Your ability to change your scales. Can you extend it? Cover me." For a heart-stopping moment, Shimmer didn't move. Then, understanding seemed to dawn in its alien eyes. Swiftly, it wrapped its massive form around Mira. She felt a strange tingling sensation as Shimmer's scales began to shift and flow, extending over her body like a living, breathing second skin. The effect was immediate. The burning in Mira's lungs eased as Shimmer's biological processes began to filter the air for her. The oppressive heat of the approaching lava flow became bearable as the alien's natural temperature regulation kicked in. Together, the human wrapped in a protective cocoon of alien biology, they began to move. Shimmer's natural agility, combined with Mira's direction, allowed them to navigate the treacherous, shifting landscape. As they climbed to higher ground, leaving the devastation behind, Mira felt a profound sense of awe. This was more than just survival. It was a symbiosis, a melding of human and alien that she would never have thought possible. Hours later, when they finally reached safety, Shimmer carefully unwrapped itself from Mira. As her suit's emergency systems kicked in, supplying her with clean oxygen, Mira looked at her alien friend with new eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice hoarse but filled with emotion. "You saved my life." Shimmer's response was to gently touch its forehead to hers, a gesture that needed no translation. As they settled into rest, both exhausted from their ordeal, Mira's mind whirled with the implications of what had just happened. The level of trust, the depth of understanding they had achieved. It went beyond anything she had ever dreamed of in her studies of xenobiology. She knew that when they made it back to the research station, everything would change. The protocols for first contact, the theories about interspecies communication, even the fundamental assumptions about the nature of alien life, all of it would need to be rewritten. But more than that, Mira realized that she had found something she never expected to find on this distant world. A friend, a partner, perhaps even, in some inexplicable, interstellar way, a soulmate. As Kepler 186f's alien moons rose in the sky, casting their ethereal light over the landscape, Mira and Shimmer huddled together. Human and alien, two beings from worlds unimaginably distant, united by shared experience and a bond that transcended the barriers of biology and language. Whatever challenges lay ahead, be it hostile aliens, the unforgiving environment of Kepler 186f, or the skepticism of Mira's fellow humans, they would face them together. And in doing so, they would blaze a trail for a new era of interstellar understanding and cooperation. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with unknowns and dangers. But as Mira drifted off to sleep, feeling the comforting presence of Shimmer beside her, she felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future. A future where the boundaries between species could be bridged, where the vastness of space could be conquered not just by technology, but by compassion, curiosity, and the universal desire for connection. In the heart of an alien world, against all odds, humanity had found not just new life, but a new way of living. And that, Mira thought as sleep finally claimed her, was the greatest discovery of all. Journey home. The following days blurred together as Mira and Shimmer trekked across the ever-changing landscape of Kepler 186f. Their goal was clear: to reach Mira's shuttle and return to the research station. But the journey was far from simple. The planet seemed determined to test their newfound partnership at every turn. Toxic storm fronts rolled in without warning, forcing them to seek shelter in caves that turned out to be home to bioluminescent creatures that communicated through painful sonic pulses. Vast canyons opened up before them, requiring ingenious solutions involving Shimmer's incredible strength and Mira's problem-solving skills to cross. Through it all, their bond deepened. Mira found herself becoming attuned to Shimmer's subtle color changes and pheromone releases, gaining insights into the aliens' emotional state that went beyond their improvised sign language. In turn, Shimmer seemed to develop an uncanny ability to anticipate Mira's needs, often acting to protect or assist her before she even realized she needed help. One particularly harrowing day, as they navigated a field of geothermal vents, Mira's suit suffered a critical failure. The filtration system shut down, leaving her exposed to the planet's toxic atmosphere. Without hesitation, Shimmer enveloped her in its protective embrace, just as it had during the earthquake. But this time, something extraordinary happened. As Shimmer's scales flowed over her, Mira felt a strange sensation. It was as if her consciousness was expanding, touching the edges of something vast and alien. For a brief, breathtaking moment, she saw the world through Shimmer's eyes, a kaleidoscope of electromagnetic fields, pheromone trails, and bioluminescent patterns that painted the landscape in ways her human senses could never perceive. When the moment passed and Shimmer unwrapped itself from her, Mira staggered, overwhelmed by the experience. Did you feel that too?" she asked, forgetting for a moment that Shimmer couldn't understand her words. But to her shock, a voice, not audible, but clear as day in her mind, responded, Yes, we are connected now. Mira's scientific mind reeled at the implications. Had Shimmer's attempt to protect her inadvertently created some kind of psychic link? Or was this a natural part of the alien's biology, a method of communication she had previously been unable to perceive? Whatever the cause, this new level of connection proved invaluable as they continued their journey. They could now share complex ideas and strategies instantly, their thoughts intertwining in a dance of human logic and alien intuition. As they neared the region where Mira had left her shuttle, however, they encountered a new challenge. The hostile aliens that had attacked Shimmer before were back, and in greater numbers. Mira and Shimmer found themselves constantly on guard, using every trick and skill they had developed together to evade detection. It was during one of these tense hiding sessions, crouched in the shadow of a towering crystal formation, that Mira had an epiphany. Through their mental link, she had been getting flashes of Shimmer's memories, fragments of a vast, interconnected society where individual minds melded into a collective consciousness. Shimmer, she thought, careful to keep her physical voice silent. These other aliens, they're like you, aren't they? Part of your species, but they're disconnected somehow. Shimmer's response came as a wave of sadness and longing. Yes, they are lost, separated from the whole, in pain, lashing out. Mira's heart ached with empathy, both for Shimmer and for these lost aliens. Is there a way to help them, to reconnect them? Shimmer's thoughts became tinged with hope, but also uncertainty. Perhaps, with the right connection point, a bridge between minds, but dangerous, risky. Mira understood the unspoken implication. She could be that bridge. Her human brain, adaptable and now attuned to Shimmer's alien consciousness, might be able to facilitate the reconnection. But the risk to her own mind, to her very sense of self, would be enormous. For days, as they continued their careful progress towards the shuttle, Mira wrestled with the decision. Her scientific curiosity and her compassionate nature urged her to try, to take this ultimate step in interspecies cooperation. But fear held her back, fear of losing herself, of being subsumed into an alien collective. It was only when they finally reached the shuttle, the promise of return to her own kind tantalizingly close, that Mira made her choice. We have to try, she said aloud, turning to Shimmer. Not just for them, but for everyone. If we can show that this level of understanding between species is possible, it could change everything. Shimmer's response was a mixture of admiration, gratitude, and concern. You are brave, Mira. Your mind shines. But the risk? Mira managed a smile. Hey, we've made it this far together, right? What's one more impossible thing? They spent the next day preparing. Mira used the shuttle's systems to boost her suit's power and to synthesize compounds that might help protect her brain during the process. Shimmer entered a meditative state, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing in complex, hypnotic sequences as it readied itself for the monumental task ahead. As Kepler 186f's twin suns set, painting the alien sky in shades of deep crimson and gold, Mira and Shimmer put their plan into action. They broadcasted a signal, a mixture of electromagnetic pulses and pheromone markers, that Shimmer assured Mira would attract the attention of the disconnected aliens. They came as the moons rose, a group of 5 aliens similar to Shimmer, but with patterns that seemed erratic, almost painful to look at. They approached cautiously, their movements a mixture of aggression and desperate hope. Mira stepped forward, Shimmer at her side. She removed her helmet, exposing herself to the alien atmosphere. As she began to gasp and choke, Shimmer enveloped her, their minds connecting more deeply than ever before. And then, with a mental push that felt like diving into an ocean of alien thoughts and sensations, Mira reached out to the lost aliens. The experience defied description. Mira felt her sense of self stretched to its limits, her consciousness expanding to encompass not just Shimmer's mind, but the fragmented, chaotic thoughts of the other aliens. She saw flashes of their history, a catastrophic event that had severed their connection to the collective, the pain and confusion of suddenly being alone after a lifetime of shared consciousness. Through it all, Mira clung to her human identity, using it as an anchor point around which the alien minds could rally. She felt Shimmer's presence, supporting her, guiding the lost ones back towards unity. The process seemed to last an eternity, and no time at all. When Mira finally came back to herself, she found she was lying on the ground, Shimmer's protective scales slowly receding from her body. Around them, the once hostile aliens were calm, their bioluminescent patterns now synchronized with Shimmer's in a beautiful harmonic display. As Mira sat up, her head spinning from the intense experience, she felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything she had ever known. They had done it. They had bridged the gap not just between two individuals of different species, but between entire modes of consciousness. Shimmer helped her to her feet, its touch gentle and filled with gratitude. "You have given them back themselves," its thoughts echoed in Mira's mind. "And you have given us all a new way forward." Mira looked at the group of aliens, no longer lost and hostile, but part of a reunited whole. She thought of the research station orbiting above, of the human civilization waiting beyond, unaware of the profound discovery that had been made on this distant world. "We've only just begun," Mira said, her voice hoarse but filled with determination. "There's so much more to learn, to share." As they prepared the shuttle for the journey back to the station, Mira knew that the real challenge was yet to come. Explaining what had happened, convincing her fellow humans of the incredible potential for interspecies understanding that she and Shimmer had uncovered, it would be a monumental task. But as she looked at Shimmer, at the other aliens now peacefully coexisting, Mira felt a surge of hope. They had achieved the impossible once. They could do it again. The shuttle's engines roared to life, lifting them off the surface of Kepler 186f. As they rose through the atmosphere, Mira's mind was already racing with plans and possibilities. She had set out to study alien life, but she had become part of something far greater, the first true bridge between worlds. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Mira knew one thing for certain: the future of human-alien relations would never be the same, and she, along with her improbable alien friend, would be at the forefront of this new era of cosmic understanding. As the shuttle broke free of the planet's gravity, soaring towards the waiting research station, Mira allowed herself a moment of pure, unbridled joy. The universe, she realized, was far more wondrous and full of potential than humanity had ever dreamed, and they were just beginning to scratch the surface. A new understanding. The research station loomed large in the shuttle's viewport as Mira guided the craft towards the docking bay. Her heart raced, a mixture of excitement and apprehension coursing through her veins. How could she possibly explain everything that had happened? Would they even believe her? As the airlock cycled and the doors slid open, Mira was met with a sight she hadn't expected. The entire station crew, led by Commander Reeves, stood waiting. Their expressions were a mix of relief, curiosity, and, in some cases, clear apprehension as they caught sight of Shimmer and the other aliens behind her. "Dr. Chen," Commander Reeves said, his voice carefully neutral, "I see you've brought some guests." Mira took a deep breath. "Commander, everyone, I know this is unprecedented, but I need you to listen. What's happened down there? It changes everything we thought we knew about alien life, about communication, about our place in the universe." Over the next few hours, in a series of debriefings that stretched long into the station's artificial night, Mira recounted her experiences. She spoke of the initial rescue, the development of their improvised communication, the hardships they'd faced together. When she got to the part about the mental link and the reintegration of the lost aliens, she could see the skepticism on many faces. Dr. Amir, the xenobiologist who had shown Mira kindness before her unauthorized mission, was the first to speak up. "Mira, what you're describing, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. The implications, if true, are staggering. I know it sounds impossible, Mira said, but I can prove it. She turned to Shimmer, who had been a calm, imposing presence throughout the debriefing. Through their mental link, she asked a question. Shimmer stepped forward, its bioluminescent patterns shifting in complex ways. Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, it began to speak, not in its own language, but in perfectly understandable English, using Mira's voice. Greetings, humans, Shimmer said, the words coming not from a mouth, but resonating from its entire being. We come in peace, seeking understanding and cooperation. The room erupted in a chaos of voices, shock, disbelief, excitement. Commander Reeves had to shout to restore order. How is this possible? He demanded, looking from Mira to Shimmer and back again. Mira explained as best she could. The mental link, the sharing of language and concepts, the bridging of alien and human modes of thought. It's not just communication, she said. It's a true meeting of minds. And it's something we can learn, something we can use to reach out to other species across the galaxy. The implications began to sink in. Dr. Tanaka, the mission's ethicist, was the first to truly grasp the magnitude of what Mira was saying. This goes beyond first contact protocols, he said, his voice filled with awe. This could be the key to universal peace, to a galactic community. Over the following weeks, the station became a hive of activity. Teams of scientists worked around the clock, studying the aliens, learning from them, and beginning the monumental task of translating this new form of communication into something that could be taught and replicated. Mira found herself at the center of it all, the primary bridge between human and alien. It was exhausting, exhilarating work. There were setbacks, moments of cultural misunderstanding, fears to be overcome, ethical dilemmas to be navigated. But with each passing day, the bond between the two species grew stronger. As news of the discovery made its way back to Earth, the response was overwhelming. The world watched in awe as the first public demonstrations of human-alien mental communication were broadcast globally. Governments scrambled to form new policies, religious leaders grappled with the theological implications, and the scientific community experienced a renaissance of innovation and discovery. Mira, once an outsider among her peers, now found herself being hailed as a pioneer, a visionary who had opened the door to a new era of cosmic citizenship. But amidst all the accolades and attention, she never forgot the true hero of the story, Shimmer, the alien who had taken a chance on a strange creature from another world. One evening, as they stood together in the station's observation dome, watching the swirling storms of Kepler 186 up below, Mira felt a wave of emotion from Shimmer. It is time, the alien's thoughts echoed in her mind. Time for us to return home, to share what we have learned with our people. Mira nodded, fighting back tears. She had known this day would come, but it didn't make it any easier. Will I see you again? She asked, already knowing the answer. The bridge between our worlds is built, Shimmer replied. Distance means little when minds can touch across the stars. We will always be connected, Mira. Always be friends. As preparations were made for the aliens' departure, Mira threw herself into one last project. Working with the station's engineers and drawing on everything she had learned about alien biology, she developed a new type of communication device, one that could facilitate the mental link across vast distances. The day of departure arrived all too soon. As Shimmer and the other aliens boarded their ship, a beautiful, organic-looking vessel that had been grown rather than built, Mira presented them with the devices. A gift, she said, her voice thick with emotion. So we can stay in touch, no matter how far apart we are. Shimmer's gratitude flowed through their link, a warmth that filled Mira's entire being. You have given us more than technology, the alien conveyed. You have given us understanding, friendship, a new way of seeing the universe. We will carry this gift to the stars. As the alien ship rose gracefully from the station, Mira stood with her fellow humans, watching it disappear into the depths of space. But even as it vanished from sight, She could feel Shimmer's presence in her mind, a constant reminder of the incredible journey they had shared. In the years that followed, Mira's discovery led to a revolution in human space exploration and diplomacy. The ability to form deep, empathic connections with alien species opened doors that had once seemed permanently closed. Humanity found itself welcomed into a galactic community far larger and more diverse than anyone had imagined. There were challenges, of course. Not every species was compatible with the mental link technology, and there were those who feared the loss of individual identity that deep connection could bring. But for every obstacle, humans and their new alien allies found innovative solutions, drawing on the strengths of their diverse perspectives. Mira herself became an ambassador of sorts, traveling to distant worlds, forming connections with new species, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible when beings from different worlds truly tried to understand one another. And through it all, no matter how far she roamed, she carried with her the memory of those first days on Kepler 186f, of the trust, the danger, the leap of faith that had started it all. She thought of Shimmer often, their minds touching across the vastness of space, sharing new discoveries, and marveling at the wonders of the universe. As Mira stood on the bridge of an interspecies exploration vessel, preparing to journey into uncharted regions of the galaxy, she reflected on how far they had come. From a chance encounter on a distant world to the brink of a new age of cosmic cooperation, it had all started with one simple truth, that compassion, curiosity, and the willingness to reach out to the unknown were the greatest strengths of not just humanity, but of all sentient life. The stars stretched out before her, each one a promise of new discoveries, new friendships, new understanding. And as the ship prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Mira smiled, feeling the warm presence of Shimmer and countless other minds linked with hers across the cosmos. The universe, she knew, would never be the same, and neither would she.